Hi, I'm Beatrice Ga and welcome to Rappler Talk. In celebration of Women's Month, we have been seeing a lot of women talk about something we don't usually talk about in public, and that is our health. For this interview, though, we will be focusing on something that we as human beings deal with every day, and it is what we eat on our dining table. We will be joined by Rebel's registered nutritionist and dietitian, Jo Sebastian, who will be enlightening us on how we women can fuel our bodies.
So how are you? Yeah, Joe. So how are you? Have you had dinner since we're talking about food, right? So
Great question. Thank you. Actually, I'm halfway through my dinner, and then it was a stressful evening, so that didn't finish, but I'll finish that later. How about you? Did you already?
yeah, I actually did. Like I just made sure that I ate right before so that So sorry na lang if I suddenly burp. Ganun eh.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. So Joe, I would want to get to know more about you.
Oh, okay. Wow. All right.
Yes.
Okay. Well, so to everybody watching, hi guys. So my name is Jo. So I'm a registered nutritionist and dietitian. Some of the stuff that I do is mostly freelance, and one of the things that you can see also if you check out the Rebel app, the Rebel at Rebel with us on Instagram, is I also make some nutrition videos and nutrition content for them. So they do a lot of workout videos and a lot of like lifestyle, meditation, yoga, all of those things. There's also a bunch of recipes and a bunch of information as well as on nutrition. Because my main goal, wow, just my main goal in life is to hopefully be able to help others learn more about nutrition so you can understand your body better and fuel yourself for your goals.
Yeah, and actually, I've been also following your account and sobrang interesting. Like, even checking your IG stories, it's like daily reminders of like, I have to be kind to my body. I can
Yes.
eat this, yes, like that. Yeah, and then, so yun nga, like, actually, we've been pulling in lots of questions on, nutrition and diet of women. And like, we are able to categorize it into so many topics. So there's like about weight gain, weight loss, diets, eating patterns, and even workout related. And for those who are watching, who are about to be mothers or are mothers right now, pregnancy, period, craving, junk food. So we're gonna get everything covered. So like hope you guys can tune in for like the whole hour. It's going to be so informative also. Pero we'll be chill lang. Like parang nag-intrude lang kayo ng FaceTime namin. Ganun eh. So yeah, like okay, let's get started. Sobrang meaty kasi like okay, Joe. So like a lot of people have been asking, syempre, like when it comes to eating, it's usually about weight gain, weight loss. Like how do I do this? So yun, how do we do this? Like what kind of nutrition is the best for both weight gain and weight loss?
Okay. All right. So just getting into it now. So
Yeah, yeah,
um,
yeah.
when it comes to weight gain and weight loss, I think one of the things that people tend to not get to learn about is the energy balance equation, which is pretty much the energy that our body needs to survive. Because our body consumes something that's called calories, right? And calories are the unit of energy in food. Tapos kapag kumakain tayo, it will be, if in excess, it will be stored as fat. While if we're not consuming enough energy, our body will tap into those stores and use it for energy, whether that be fat or in later stages, your muscle stores to use it for energy. Right? So when it comes to weight loss and weight gain, it's really about the energy balance equation. So if you want to gain weight, you have to eat more food than your body uses in a day. While if you want to lose weight, you have to eat less food than your body uses in a day. So, in that sense, parang gas sa kotse, diba? You have to, if you want to gain weight, you overflow it with gas, parang ganun. And then, if you want to lose weight, you have to keep your tank just a little bit under or something like that, in that sense. So when it comes to weight loss and weight gain, there's not a specific diet you necessarily have to follow. You just have to take a look at your energy intake. But of course, take into account the quality of the food that you're intaking. So, in a nutshell, that's weight loss and weight gain. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, pero for sure, like, I could like just like eat nothing and then I'll lose weight, ganun. Or like if I want to like gain, like I'm just gonna feed stuff myself also with a lot of food the day before, right? So is there what so how do we like measure like what's like the healthy like time frame to like gain weight and lose weight naman?
Oh, okay. Um, the healthy kind of weight loss was seen to be like 1 to 2 pounds per week. No? But this varies also, especially pag beginning pa lang. Pag simula mo pa lang ng weight loss journey mo, madalas mas marami. It's not necessarily bad, but it can be if it's like 10 pounds, 20 pounds a week, right? That's when it's like, okay, that's dangerous. But if you go up to maybe 3 or 4 for the first few weeks of your journey, sometimes that's because it's a big change in your lifestyle, that your body is also not just losing fat, but it's also losing some water weight. No, so some of those things come into consideration as well. And people tend to want to rush the process. I mean, same like diba? We want to get the quickest results as much as possible. But when we actually take it slower, it's much more sustainable and also healthier for our body in general. So 1 to 2 pounds is the ideal.
I see. So how does fat and muscle come into the equation naman? Because I think like losing weight, it's also like you dive deeper into like whether I want to lose fat or I want to gain muscle then.
Okay. So like, what do you mean? Like, which one would you decide to choose first? Is that?
I guess like it's more of like how should I eat if like for example I want to lose fat like in a healthy way and gain muscle also.
Okay. Okay. That's okay. So basically, body recomposition is kind of the term for that. No, gusto natin mag-build ng muscle, gusto natin mag-lose ng fat, right? And that will actually help us get the toned look that everybody kind of wants or is told that we have to have, kind of thing. But one thing is for to do that simultaneously, to lose fat and gain muscle, there's like a few things that you have to consider. It's usually helpful for those who are beginners, right? For beginners, madali. That's like easier for your muscles. Also for athletes who are detrained, because it's kind of like they feel like it's new. The body's like, oh, new stimulus kind of thing. Oh, I've never done this before, you know. Also for those who have a lot more like weight to lose, right? The ones who are more on the heavier side, those people can have an easier way or easier method of body recomposition. But then for those who are a little bit more advanced, then this doesn't necessarily apply to you guys. So if you're not one of the three, you're more advanced. I'll get to that one in a bit. But for the three that I just mentioned, it's you can basically get away with having the slightest calorie deficit or surplus. So just adding or subtracting 100 to 200 calories from your usual intake, right? And then focusing mostly on getting enough lean sources of protein and having enough fats to, of course, help you absorb nutrients and enough carbohydrates to help you fuel your workouts. So it's really just finding the balance for yourself, but just being on that slight deficit for you. But
I see.
yeah, I think what we should actually get into a little bit is the whole science of like muscle gain and fat loss, right? So
So
let
can
me
you?
get my
Oh yeah, this is the more advanced na, diba? Like this is the one you're
I'm getting
saying the more advanced
no, but basically, kasi ang naiisip kasi natin madalas, parang I want to turn my fat into muscle, no? But then they're actually very different compositions in the sense, right? Your muscles are made of protein and then your fat is made of fat. And they don't actually interchange into one another. So,
Oh, noted, noted.
di ba, parang nagiging muscle na yung fat ko. It's not like that. It's not like that. The thing is, your muscle is created from, of course, weight training, right? That's how you make the muscle and repair it with food. And then to lose fat, you have to eat a little bit less so that your body can tap into your fat sources, right? To kind of push it down. So oftentimes when you're a beginner, you can get away with eating your usual intake and just starting to work out to build your muscle and lose fat. But then when you're a little bit more advanced, that's when you have to dig a little bit deeper to how much you're consuming, and now the amount of protein you're taking, and the amount of carbohydrates and fats that you're intaking. So that's when it becomes a lot more specific.
I see. So it's if like correct me if I'm wrong. So it's like we have to eat like less calories to tap into the fat, right? So that it will
Yeah.
be used as calories. But then like we have to like take a lot of protein to gain the muscle, which is
Yeah,
not the
and
fat that yeah.
that doesn't turn into fat.
Ah!
And eat a little bit more in general para mag-build ng muscle. So that's the difference. With like losing fat, you have to eat a little bit less. But to gain muscle, you have to eat a little bit more. That's why it's like, how can you do both at the same time? And that's when it's when you're a beginner, or if you're a detrained, or if you are a little bit on the heavier side, that's when you can do both at the same time in a way. But when you're more advanced, that's when it's harder to do both at the same time.
Oh, so speaking of like body like recomposition also, so is it possible that I could just like eat healthy to like get that flat stomach, mawawala yung ano fat sa midsection ko, diba? That's where like it gets really difficult for women actually, like to like lose that. So is it only can food be able to like treat that, or kailangan talaga ng ano exercise din?
Okay, okay. So, pagkadating sa, what do we call this? Wanting to look leaner in that sense, right? One thing that we always have to remember, you can lose weight through diet alone, but you're not going to be able to build muscle on diet alone. That's where workout comes in. So, you can lose weight and you can become skinnier in the sense you can become thinner, right? If you just do diet. But some of us are looking for abs and are looking for like those shoulders, the quads, the booty. Those are the things that most of us hope will achieve if we lose weight. But we won't achieve that if we're not building muscle, right? So that's the difference, is that to build muscle, you really have to work out. And you can find some workouts on the Rebel app if you want to try those out, right? To help you build those muscles and stuff. But through diet, you can mainly lose fat and help your body recover. So if you're just gonna diet, tapos hinihintay mo na lumabas na yung abs mo, that might not happen. No, that might not necessarily, especially if hindi built yung main muscles underneath there. So just the like disclaimer.
Parang dream on. Joke lang. So,
Let's
yeah.
see na.
So, yeah. And like speaking of, yun nga, like the diets and eating patterns, like, so we have like a lot of like trendy diets right now. And one of them is keto naman. So, what is it and who is it for? And do you actually recommend it?
Ooh, okay. So the ketogenic diet is basically a very low carbohydrate diet. And to give you a little bit of perspective of what are our carbohydrate sources, so that's usually your rice, your grains, right? So your potato, sweet potato, bread, pasta, oats, right? Those are our carbohydrate sources. Now, when you say very low carbohydrate, this is like below 50 grams of carbs. And perspective of what 50 grams of carbs look like, that looks like 4 slices of bread, right? So imagine yun lang for the whole day. That's your carbohydrate source. Plus may gulay pa from other sources of vegetable and fruit. So kailangan mo pa rin yun i-limit. So that's the ketogenic diet. Who is it for? It was initially designed for those who had epilepsy, because they saw that for some reason this diet helped them minimize seizures. But even then, they minimize the for you to be able to do that diet, you cannot go over 2 years. And there's a loading period as well, where you don't just go boom, no carbs. There's a period of time where you have to minimize that. also something that most people don't know is that if you're doing a lot of protein during a ketogenic diet, you're actually not in ketosis because your body is using the protein for energy source as well. So, and protein can turn into glucose through a pathway, which, what's that? Like that. Okay. Now, the question everybody wants to know is it recommended? What do you feel? Do you feel like, from just like hearing about it, do you feel like it's a recommended thing?
Okay, like honestly, because like I actually have a gall problem, so that's why like I cannot take a lot of fat. Like, I had it like in 2019. That's why like I know that it's not for me. But then like, when I tell my friends, I'm just like, I don't know if it's not for you, but I know it's not for me like that. So, well, but then from what it sounds like you're already like removing a food group or like almost like two food groups, and you're just relying on fat. So like I don't think that's how our bodies should be, like how we should be fueling our bodies as well.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a good point for you. Just like one thing that you always have to notice, like, okay, it doesn't work for me. Like knowing if it works for you and yourself, because like it might work for other people, but then if you feel like it doesn't work for you, then don't do it. That's the one question that I always ask before I recommend a diet. Do you think it's gonna work for you? Do you think it's gonna serve your purpose on earth? Like, or is it gonna take you away from your goal? Because if you're gonna constantly be thinking of food the whole day, it's not gonna help you reach your goals, right? Because that's all you're thinking about. But for the ketogenic diet, it's not it's had some benefits for, let's say, insulin control and all of those things, but it's not a long-term thing, right? And there aren't enough studies to show that it is beneficial long-term. Yes, you can lose weight instantly, quickly, all of those things, but if you can't keep it for long-term, then it doesn't serve your overall purpose as a human being to allow you to, of course, reach your full health goals and full health potential. And that's the thing about short-term diets, is if you're really going to do it just for that short term, how is that going to impact the rest when you're not doing it anymore, right? So you might go back and forth through the weight, which usually happens through dieting phases. You end up gaining twice what you lost, especially if it was really fast of a weight loss. And also, the types of fats that you consume on a ketogenic diet has to be monitored, has to ensure that it won't increase your cholesterol levels, and so on and so forth. So if you're gonna do the keto diet, at least make sure you are consulting with a professional as you do it. But I personally wouldn't recommend it, especially if pang weight loss lang.
Yeah, actually, to follow up nga, like you said that it was designed for people with epilepsy, then how did it become like a weight loss fad?
Yeah. Well, I think people just, because, okay, we're gonna jump into like diet history here, where low carb diets in general started in like the 1980s when Dr. Atkins released his book, right? His Dr. Atkins revolution thing. Because prior to that, people were trying to go low fat. Okay, people were like all about low fat. All of the things were like low fat, low fat. So when this book came out, everyone was like, "What? We have to eat fats to lose weight?" It was like the complete opposite of what they initially thought, diba? So they're like, "Yes, all right, let's go, let's do it," diba? And so they started to feel like that was it because it just felt like freedom in that sense, diba? And it works initially, and you lose a lot of weight in this because carbohydrates hold on to water also when it's stored in your body as glycogen. So there's like 3 to 4 grams of water per 1 gram of glycogen. So when you stop consuming carbs, these stores deplete. So the water stores also deplete. And then you end up, of course, losing a chunk of weight, right? So that's one thing. And then apart from that is, it used to be just low carb, and then a lot of versions of that, the paleo diet, South Beach diet, right? All of these versions of low carb. And then the ketogenic diet came in, where it was like very, very low carb, like ultra low carb, where people were suggested to eat bacon and like lechon. So, syempre, parang, okay, yun pala eh, di ba? When and I guess that's the thing. When people are told that they can eat something they've constantly been told not to eat, they're gonna want to go for that. And then when they saw results, not knowing that it wasn't that not knowing that weight loss doesn't always necessarily equate to health, that's when things turn up a little bit different for the diet world.
I see. Well, yun nga, parang, well, you touched on like low carb nga. So, yun nga, like, I think like I answered this already. Like, is it healthy to cut out carbs completely? Yeah.
Completely, I would say no, just because you also lose a lot of nutrients. Plus, you also lose a lot of opportunities to make memories with people, right?
Ice
Like,
cream.
yeah, exactly.
Pizza!
One of my like memories talaga is like being at home, di ba? Parang chill, tapos biglang may nag-uwi ng pizza. Tapos yung una mong iisipin, ano ba yan? Sinisira mo diet ko. Kesa sa, thank you, oh my gosh, sure, thank you for the pizza. Hindi. Unang isip mo, oh my God, baliw ka. Parang, you know, like the first thing you think of is something super duper mean and
And
like not
negative.
helpful at all versus like, yes, let's eat pizza, yes, let's have fun, right? That's when it's like, okay, I might have to rethink my diet, you know?
Yeah. And then like the best one or like the one everyone's actually more confused with is the intermittent fasting naman. Like, that's
Mm.
when you eat like through cycles, right? So, is it worth the hype? Like, are there really benefits to it? And like, what do you have to watch out for? Like, how could it be harmful to you then?
Okay. Have you tried it before? Like, do you know people who've tried it? How
Oh,
have they
for
been?
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've tried it, but then like for me it was just to like curb my snacking at night. Like so
Okay.
it wasn't like I just wanted to see if I would then like I would want to like track if like I lost weight, pero like for me it was just to like it's more habit forming than like I'm going like my hitting like a certain weight goal naman.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gets. Actually, that's one thing about. So let's like do background, right? So intermittent fasting, from the words intermittent fasting. So you're fasting intermittently. So you have breaks of eating and fasting windows. And sometimes people do 5-2, which is 5 days of eating and then 2 days of fasting in between there. And then some people do 16-8, which is the most common one, 16 hours of fasting, 8 hours of eating. There's also the 12-12, right? 20-24. There's also OMAD, which you only eat one meal a day. It's not necessarily a diet as more of an eating pattern, but and it can help you lose weight because oftentimes you will skip a meal, right? However, the negative impacts of this is sometimes it can lead to binge eating, where you treat it as more of like restrict binge, like you're just given a window to eat whatever you want, and then you're just like going for it, right? And then it can lead to an unhealthy relationship with yourself and with food. Um, I tried intermittent fasting before when in college, like mga middle of my college years. And yeah, I lost a lot of weight, but then I was also waiting for every single second before 12 p.m. So it was like 11:59 and I was like, can I eat yet? I was like, no. I was like, I have to wait, diba? So those are some of the things. And also sometimes the reason why intermittent fasting works, diba, is because you're still going on the calorie deficit, which we were talking about a while ago, eating less energy than your body needs. But if you're gonna end up eating more as well, then you might as well just space out your meals throughout the day, something that will be more helpful for you. So that you can still have breakfast with your family, you can still have brunch out, that kind of thing. So, yeah.
Yeah. Do you track your calories every day?
I used to, but I became super duper like obsessed, and then I realized it was no longer serving my purpose for my health because I was so obsessed with it, and every I spent a lot of time on it, right? Time that I could have spent maybe writing a book. Well, sure, but like time I
Are
could
you writing a
no,
book?
no. But like maybe reading a book or learning about something new, I could have spent that time. For calorie counting, you can try it just to be aware, like just for overall awareness of what you're consuming. But then if it if you do it long term and then you feel like you can't survive without knowing exactly the calories that you're consuming, that's when you notice that it might be detrimental to your health.
Mm, I see. So, yeah, like actually also for since this is supposed to be like a very sporty like fitness, health, nutrition talk also. So let's get into like workouts naman. So, ang dami nagtatanong like about like pre-workout and post-workout. So, yun, like maybe you could give examples of what food like food you can eat before and after naman.
Oh, okay. One of the main
Yeah.
questions is actually, should I eat fast? Should I work out fasted? Right? Like that's one of the things that we always think. Like dapat ikaw muna kumain bago mag-workout. But if you feel like wala ka talagang energy mag-workout, like if you can't do a workout without any food, don't do it because then you won't be able to hit your workouts 100%. Like try one of the rebel workouts without eating, and if you faint after, you might want to eat before you do it, that kind of thing. So prior to your workouts, oftentimes you want to have your high carbohydrate meals, so that's often the easy to digest as well. So you can have your fruits, you can have your white bread, you can have your potatoes, that kind of thing. And then post workout is when you want to also have carbohydrates and protein. But for those who are, let's say, not necessarily major athletes who have specific goals, then your timing of the meals around your workouts aren't necessarily that important. You just really want to fuel up.
Mm, I see. So, yun, parang one question actually is like, is it healthy to have like coffee before a morning workout also? Yun.
That depends on you. Like, yeah, it can help you because with your energy levels, right? Pre-workouts that some people will use before for the gym have caffeine. So like it can be helpful. But then for those who let's say have acid reflux, right, then it won't be helpful for you to take caffeine prior to your workout without eating anything pa. Right? So that's some things to consider. But overall, if you're
Mm.
generally healthy, no impact to your digestive system or how you feel, and it actually gives you energy, then go for it.
Okay, so it actually depends on like how low or high impact the training is.
Yeah. Overall, the question you should ask for mainly fueling yourself for your workout is really, can I, like, is this going to give me energy? How is this going to impact my digestion? Mauutot ba ako habang nag-workout? Yung mga ganun.
Yeah. Actually, like ako naman personally, like I used to be an athlete and I still train like high intensity pero mabilis ako masuka. So, and I work out in the morning. So that's why parang I cannot even like digest like a piece of bread. Pero I would not restrict myself not like, if I feel hungry when I wake up very hungry, I would like get some nuts, ganon, or like basta like something to keep me full lang din. Pero yun,
Yeah.
like, actually, I also have like instances kasi na I wait, yun nga, like sometimes when I go to bed, like I get so hungry and then like it kind of affects my sleep or when I wake up, like it's like
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
insane hunger. So how do I know like if I'm eating enough naman in a day?
Okay. There are many signs for you to be able to help you find out if you're eating enough throughout the day. It's one, like you said, if you wake up super duper hungry, there's a possibility you weren't eating enough yesterday, right? Or even the day before that. So feeling hungry is one sign that you're not eating enough. Another one is low energy. So if you find yourself feeling constantly fatigued, like you just don't have any energy at all to do anything, that's another sign of undereating. Another sign of undereating is if you constantly have food thoughts. So if you're always thinking about food, like for breakfast, you're already like, okay, when's lunch? And then for lunch, you're already like, all right, where's my dinner? Diba? Or every time you see food online, you're just like, oh my God, I'm so hungry. But then you just like keep pushing it. Then that's possibly a sign as well that you're not eating enough. And then other signs, some for women specifically, is irregular periods. Like if you're not having the right, if you're not having periods, that's also a sign of you not eating enough. And then you also have feeling cold all the time. That's one thing. And irritability. So basically, you're like constantly hangry, right? So those are some signs that you can look out for. And if you're constantly feeling that, then that might mean you have to either increase your intake or have some satisfying meals.
But what if like I'm trying to be on a calorie deficit and then like I was so matakaw before, but then like I have to be in a calorie deficit, ganon. That's why I'm hungry, ganon. So like how could you like I don't differentiate or like how do you know if it's healthy pa na like your relationship with food in that sense?
Okay. Um, for like, let's say you're trying to lose weight, right? That's why you don't want to go major laking calorie deficit na. That's why like the most is 500 talaga, right? But you can even do 300 or 200 if you want to be more conservative and you also want to um kind of, what do we call this? Preserve your hunger and your appetite and all of those things, that connection with that. So for those who are dieting, oftentimes long-term dieting talaga can really impact your hunger hormones. So if it's really going insane and crazy that you're just constantly hungry, that's when I would take like a diet break, where I would um, stay off of the deficit for a bit until I feel a little bit more like, you know, satiated and less thinking of food all the time. And then you can jump back into your calorie deficit. But you also have to look into if you are consuming too little food, and also are your meals satisfying? Because I think that's one of the biggest tendencies we all have, especially pag nagda-diet. Our instant thought is the smaller meals, the better. But you don't actually have to be starving to lose weight. There are ways to make your meals satisfying. And that's by increasing either your protein, increasing your fiber, or having a little bit more fats into your meals para you actually feel satisfied and you can go on about your day.
Mm-mm. And there are a lot of women who are starting now with weight training also. So is whey protein helpful and or is it even required like while you're lifting weights? Kasi, 'di ba, masakit yung katawan mo after eh.
Yeah, yeah. So when it comes to weight, to whey protein, the things that you consider is your protein intake. And whey protein is a supplement, so it supplements your protein needs, right? So if you can't consume enough protein from your food sources, which is usually your eggs, your chicken, your tuna, your beef, your pork, also mga tofu and beans and other plant-based sources as well, then that's when you can now turn to protein powder, right? It can be helpful for men and for women to help them reach their protein goal. But if you feel like you're relying so much on protein powder, like you're taking 2, 3, 4 scoops just to meet your needs, then it's possible that your protein needs are off and are too high for your body.
Yun. Actually, may there's like a good question then. Kasi like whey protein, it is from milk, right? So is there like, and there are links of dairy being like not only an allergen, but there might be like, it's bad. Like, diba, there's like the case, we talk about casein and even like minsan may allergy sa skin, or I don't know, it affects the skin, it affects, overall health, long term pa, ganun.
Okay. Well, because milk or dairy in general is lactose, right? And like about 70-80% of populations are usually lactose intolerant, especially Asians, right? There are plant-based protein powders. So when you say whey, and you said casein a while ago, those are the two proteins that you can mainly get from milk. So that's whey and then that's casein. And then whey is easier to absorb. Casein is something that's slower to absorb. The impact on your skin or your overall health, maybe your gut health, mainly depends on your overall health as well as allergies and genetics and stuff like that. But if you still want to consume a protein powder, you have also plant-based sources of protein powders that are usually a mix of either rice protein, pea protein, soy protein, and other plant-based sources. So when you say whey, this is often from milk. Unless it says lactose free, then it can be for lactose intolerance.
I see. So read the labels na lang and try it out for yourself if it will work for you. Ganon. Yun. And then yun nga, parang as women naman, like, we also have to talk about like our periods. And then like a lot of people have so many questions about bloating na minsan like, is it related to the food I eat? Is it just like me like having my period, ganon? Like how do I curb bloating, ganon?
Actually, this is like one of my favorite topics. Like periods are one of my favorite topics. Legit, like I love. Like I don't love periods because they suck, but
Yeah. I was just like, oh my gosh, she loves periods.
I don't really love that. No. But I love talking about it because we're so afraid of it. Like talking about blood. Like, when you were in grade school, tinatago mo yung pads mo pag punta ka ng bathroom, diba? When this should be something that is very normalized in the world. Because, like, yes, women bleed. We shouldn't have to hide that. It's pretty much something that the world has given us, diba? So, to talk about it is one of my favorite things. But okay, for bloating, we have to understand kind of our hormones, which is estrogen and progesterone, right? Bloating usually happens pre-period to after the first few days of your period, and that usually happens because of the shift of your hormones. The hormones shifting causes this bloating. Now, sometimes it's really just normal, like you can't do anything about it. It just happens, but you can minimize the uncomfortable feeling of it, and this is by increasing your fiber intake. Right? So get more fibers in, but watch out for your gas-making fibers. So this is the one when you want to look at low FODMAP foods. Okay, so this is like your bananas, your berries, your carrots, also squash, and lettuce. And you want to kind of minimize your intake of, let's say, broccoli and cauliflower. Those other ones that are a little bit much more like have much bigger impacts on your gas forming in your gut that makes you more bloated. So fiber, one thing to look into. Another one is water intake. Increase your water intake. And then the other one is to decrease sodium intake so that you don't retain a lot of water, which can lead to more bloating. And then the other one is spacing out your meals throughout the day. So having those big meals often makes you bloat more, or having a big moment of like not eating and then eating a big meal can make you feel more bloated. So those are some things to look at. So fiber, water, sodium, and spacing out your meals.
Okay. What about cramps naman? Period cramps.
Oh yeah.
Painful.
So, do you get like intense cramps?
You know what? Like, it's funny. Like, I only started getting period cramps when I stopped being like a competitive athlete.
Oh, okay. That
Yeah.
makes sense too. Yeah, that like I think like just the intensity of your workouts and maybe like the fueling during your workouts could have also impacted your hormones, which happens a lot with athletes, right? But for cramps, the things to look into is increasing magnesium because this helps. This is like a muscle relaxing nutrient, right? So you can get that from your beans, your legumes, your nuts, and your seeds. Uh, Also decreasing your intake of fatty foods because this has also been seen to increase yung cramping feeling. So pwede natin yan i-decrease rin yung intake nun. And then another one is caffeine. So caffeine has also been seen to increase your cramps. So you can also minimize that. And then just like take it easy.
Oh my God. Like that. I'm just like, I drink coffee like
Yeah.
every day. Oh no. Gotta sleep instead.
During your period.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, like a part of ano din, like PMS also, like the symptoms is like craving
Mm-hmm.
carbs and junk food, yun. So, how do you manage your cravings naman?
Okay. first, like, we also have to look at during the PMS time, which is your luteal phase during your period, which is when your hormones are going down na because the egg was not used, it's gonna go down na. And then this is usually when actually during this period you tend to burn like 50 to 150 to 100 calories more, which now you understand the tendency to want to crave more food because your body is getting ready to bleed and your body's gonna start bleeding, which is like kind of like you're wounded in the sense. And when you're sick, you tend to burn more calories as well because your body's trying to work on those functions. So to feel hungrier during PMS is totally normal, right? And that's like totally acceptable, and that's just how it goes. And my main thing for cravings is if you're craving something, then go for it. Just of course see how much you want or how much you want to eat of it until that will make you feel good. Because our tendency is like, no, 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 you're not allowed to eat it. And then you eat it, and then you're just like, oh man, I'll just eat the whole thing. Versus if we allowed ourselves to eat it, we could just be like, oh, I want one. Okay, do I want another one? Okay, okay, I'm good. You know, like finding a way to listen to your cues. And also keeping note of your cravings. So kind of see the pattern. Oh, I tend to crave more high-fat foods during my period. I tend to crave more carbohydrate-rich foods. So to kind of understand your specific patterns as well of your specific cravings. But also, increase yung fresh foods para you feel good pa rin.
Yeah. Like when you said, go for it, ang dami nag-heart. And then like, hearts! Yeah, so go for it now. Kung may kina-crave ka, just go for it. And then yun nga, parang a lot are sweets also, but then we know that like, having too much sweets or too much of anything actually is bad. So for those who want to like curb their sweets intake, like what are good substitutes naman? And good and satisfying substitutes.
Oh, okay. For yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Like, ano, sorry. Yeah, nag-pause lang ata yung internet. Okay, sorry. Yeah.
Sorry.
But
So
substitutes.
for cravings, for specifically for sweets, I think sometimes a tendency is because we tend to undereat. Also, that's one of the things, right? That's one of the things to look into. Before you decide on substituting sweets and all of those things, you want to look at your overall intake first. Are you consuming enough food in general? Because if you're not, that might be one of the reasons why your body's like, okay, I need something high calorie, high energy right now because we're not consuming enough. So that's a possibility. Then of course, if you see that you're consuming enough food, satisfying meals throughout the day, now you can look for your substitutes. And sometimes you can do a substitute like a fruit, right? Or you can also simply balance out your sweet food and add a fruit with it, right? Like you can always do, or something high fiber, right? Something high fiber, high fat, or high protein to keep it filling. Because oftentimes your higher carbohydrate, higher sugar foods are not always the most filling, right? They're satisfying on the tongue, pero parang gutom pa rin tayo when we consume it. So by balancing it out maybe with something higher fiber or higher protein, you can feel more satisfied after consuming it. Like, for me, I would do maybe like a banana with an Oreo kind of thing, or like some marshmallows on my banana, or like let's say a digestive or like a wheat thin with like your Nutella, right? Kind of having a mix of both. And that also works for, let's say, some processed food. If the only thing you can consume right now is mga instant noodles, okay, let's just add some vegetables. Like, let's put in some cabbage into that. Pancit canton with some carrot, Kind of like,
Ooh, I love
broccoli.
carrots.
Yes, diba? Yung mga ganon. It doesn't have to be one or the other. You can always put them together and make something a little bit more satisfying and more nutrient dense.
Yeah, so it actually doesn't have to be expensive pa yung mga healthy snacks na yun. If you said that it was just a banana and Oreo, right?
Yes. Now I want one. Okay.
Yeah, so actually, like another, um, like one of our target audiences is like the pregnant women and, new moms. And yun nga, parang main question is like, what's a good meal for breastfeeding moms, especially the ones who want to actually get back in shape na for like workout, ganon.
Um, for breastfeeding, and this happens mostly when after, of course, after you've given birth, you feel like you want to instantly lose the weight agad, diba? That's like your main focus. But and I don't recommend to go diet or to go on a calorie deficit right away. In fact, when you are lactating, you have to consume about 500 calories above your usual intake to help you sustain your milk production. So if you're not consuming enough, you won't be able to produce milk, right? So that's something. So I would just go with being physically active, and then of course increasing your high fiber fruits and vegetables and your high fiber grains, and then consuming lean sources of protein. And then the important part as well is to get your omega-3 types of fats, which is from your nuts and seeds, some of your plant oils, and some fish sources like your salmon, tuna, mackerel, and sardines. So mainly for lactating moms, it's really just about eating enough and you can still move. And sometimes the energy that you consume is used to produce the milk, right? So sometimes that can also help. And it's really just about finding your balance, Rin, when you are starting to come back.
Yeah, because I think a concern is like after they give birth, they want to lose the weight na kaagad, diba? So parang it still is about fuel eating enough. And then maybe sa workout na lang yung parang babawi, ganun.
Yeah,
Like
not necessarily
to help.
bawi. Just because like parang the bawit term, parang oh my god, now I have to exercise even more, diba? But more of the sense like that's where you can start feeling more connection with your body again, right? You can start
Mm.
developing that strength again, and then when you are starting to wean off your breastfeeding, that's when you can now go on your calorie deficit.
I see. And then what if you're like pregnant naman, like currently pregnant and you want to continue working out and staying active, like what should be like the best foods that you should I should eat and like do I have to eat how many times more than like my usual calories, ganon.
Okay. That depends on your specific exercise. Like that depends on the person, the amount of time you'll be exercising, the amount of movement, and all of these things that you'll be doing. So you'll have to consult in with your doctor to find out, and then I'll have to know specific. We'll have to know specifically, um, for your needs. Usually during the first trimester, there isn't really an added amount of intake yet, but it's when you go to your second and third trimester that we usually add 300 calories there. And it's always important to consume a balance of all of the nutrients because if you are deficient in a specific nutrient, like this is usually the time when I would definitely recommend your pregnant mothers to not go low carb because your children will need carbohydrates unless of course you have gestational diabetes or you're going through diabetes. That's when you can watch out your carbohydrate intake. Of course, increase your protein because your body's gonna need that, and then your fat sources because it like omega 3s because that will help your baby build its brain and all of those things. So definitely do not recommend to start dieting when you are pregnant. But the tendency rin kasi is when you are pregnant is like parang, oh, I'm eating for two now, that kind of thing. But
Yeah.
yeah,
That's what everyone's like saying na that's why they give in to the cravings pa. Kasi
yeah,
diba you tend to crave also when you're pregnant.
yeah. And it's just like when you're not pregnant, it's really just finding the balance of how much you need to intake to maintain a healthy weight gain during your pregnancy. And that will now vary naman, it's computed based off your weight and all of those things. But to understand rin that you don't necessarily have to go overboard just because you're pregnant. Like it doesn't have to be like, oh, eat all of this because you're pregnant, that kind of thing. There's still a balance that we have to watch out for. A balance of satisfying your cravings and a balance of being able to feel good and fuel the growing baby.
I see. Yeah, so like it's we're just gonna tackle like two specific conditions naman, like for with actually both women and men. It's like GERD naman, parang it's super common now among millennials to have GERD. Yun nga. So what should we eat and what should we avoid when we really just feel so acidic sa chan ganun?
Actually, not so much focusing on what to eat, but mostly focusing on making sure that you're able to consume food. Because for GERD, there aren't always specific food items because it depends right from person to person. Parang which are your trigger foods? Sometimes it can be high fat foods, can be dairy, can be peppermint, caffeine, tea, those kinds of things. But the most important part is being able to eat. Because when you have heartburn, hirap kumain. Diba? Parang nasusuka ka lang talaga and you just can't eat na. So how do we get this person to be able to consume the regular meals? That is some things that would help is maybe drinking water a few sipping throughout your meal to help, right? To help the digestion flow with that. And then having smaller meals. Because when you try to consume such a big meal, it's gonna be way harder to digest it and bring it down. So having spacing that out is what you can work on first. So really finding the meal pattern for yourself to space it out 2 to 3 hours. Other things that you want to avoid is lying down after eating and also making sure you don't work out right after you eat, right? Those kinds of things. And sometimes also a probiotic can help if you have GERD. So taking a probiotic in the morning can help, usually the capsule.
I see. So it's more of like the activities that also surround or your eating behavior, ganon. Like when you
Yeah,
have GERD.
yes.
And what about PCOS naman? Like, is there a way to like, mitigate like symptoms or like do you have tips of for people with P who are suffering from PCOS naman?
Oh, okay. For PCOS, there's like it's kind of the same management as diabetes because the thing that you look into is your insulin resistance. Um, but there's also like a full video on PCOS on the Rebel with Us Instagram, so you guys can like go to the Rebel with Us Instagram to find like a full-on video of the specific management for PCOS. But it's mostly around the types of carbohydrates you're consuming, the timing around your day to help you manage that, and of course, foods that will help you fight inflammation because sometimes when you have PCOS, it's often chronic inflammation, and we want to reduce the inflammation through consuming your foods like your omega-3 foods and also your antioxidant foods to reduce that inflammation and help minimize your symptoms. So thing that people mostly see for PCOS is like, don't eat carbs, diba? Yung ganon. Or like, bawal na mag-rice, yung mga ganon. But not necessarily naman. It's really managing the amount and the timing throughout the day para hindi ganon ka off yung balance sa blood sugar levels natin.
Yeah, yeah. And to wrap up our discussion also, like I want, can you share naman like your relationship with food and how you eat naman now?
Oh, okay. I eat with my hands. No, I'm just kidding. So,
Yes.
so okay, my history kasi with food is that I used to be a dancer, and this kind of led me to have like a terrible relationship with food because I was constantly thinking about my weight. And then this is when I realized I wasn't focusing on dancing anymore. I was mostly focusing on um, how much I weighed, which really negatively impacted my relationship with myself. And then I didn't understand how to fuel myself anymore, and then I was just like constantly afraid of food, that kind of thing. So I was like, maybe if I learn about it through nutrition, I have a better relationship with myself and I can eat something without feeling guilty. And that happened because when I learned more about food, I realized it's our friend, it's our fuel. Apart from that, it's also part of tradition, it's also part of culture, it's comfort, it's how we connect with people, right? And realizing that and understanding that is a really big step in working on your relationship with yourself and with food. So like I also went through like disordered eating patterns and binge eating, and then I realized a lot of the culprits to that was because I was setting so much rules on myself, like you're not allowed to eat this, bawal kumain after 6 p.m., yung mga ganon. Na gustong-gusto kong i-break yung mga rules na yun. Like, the inner rebel in me was like, haha, no, you can't tell me what to do. Ganon. And then, I realized that, like, setting myself up with all of these rules really made me feel constrained. And sometimes when you feel like you need to put more control on yourself in diet, it's actually a sign that you should be more flexible. Because that is when you're going to start to be able to really listen to your body and your hunger's fullness cues and realize that it wasn't always about your weight or how you looked. It was more about how you took care of yourself. Because that's the biggest thing. How you take care of yourself will reflect in the other aspects of your life. And if you're taking care of yourself through a place of hate and anger and like, ay nako, hindi ka deserving, you're not worth eating, you don't deserve to eat, diba? Like, all of those things, you have to work out more, you have to earn it, those things. It's going to reflect into how you talk to others and how you put yourself out there. Versus if you treat yourself with love, respect, and care and be like, yes, you deserve to eat. Yes, your body's amazing. Go lift that weight kind of thing. You also now project that energy. And now you're like, yes, I deserve this. I deserve this. That kind of thing. So, yeah, that's my story.
Yeah, you are loved, Jo. You are loved.
Thank you.
Yeah, so yun nga, like, do you have any like final words? Since we're wrapping it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, so I just want to say like thank you to everybody who popped on, and you should definitely download the Rebel app, right? So that's the Rebel app on your Android or your Apple phone. They have a lot of free stuff, and you can also subscribe to their monthly or yearly subscription for more content. But really follow there because the community is super duper amazing. Like, you're gonna learn so much from everybody's experience. Everybody shares about their journey. You're gonna learn about nutrition. You're gonna learn about workouts. Kapag di mo na alam kung anong workout gagawin, go for it and all those things. And you can also follow me at It's Jo Sebastian for more nutrition and like other stuff about my life. But definitely download the Rebel app.
Yeah, and it's free. Like,
Yeah.
healthy eating and working out doesn't have to be expensive. So
Or
thank
hard.
you so much, Jo, for joining us in this discussion. Super insightful. I hope a lot of women have learned about, building a healthier relationship with food and also like just like being more informed on what they're eating on their dining table. So again, this is Beatrice Go, and thank you again, Jo, for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you guys. Bye.
Yeah. Bye.